Hello, I'm Natalia, and this is my power animal. And today we'll be presenting news from the job market, January 2025. And let's get going. So, briefly about me, I'm by education, I'm a mathematician, psychologist, and physicist after University of Warsaw, and also I did some studies in economy before I moved on to my PhD in computational neuroscience. Then I started actually doing more in career development as I figured that researchers actually need more help than research. So that's became my way of living. And in 2018, I started a foundation, which is still operating. And then in 2019, I founded a company, Ontology of Value, which I'm still running. Yeah, and I do a lot of research on the job market and the mechanisms behind it within the company. Okay, so what's new? What's the new interesting facts and figures that might tell us a little bit about the future in the job market, like near future? Well, first, from what's interesting, what's happening. We recently witnessed another edition of Davos conference by World Economic Forum by World Economic Forum edition 2025. So briefly, what is it? What is World Economic Forum? Actually, this whole venue was initiated in 1971, so over 50 years ago, by this guy Klaus Schwab. Schwab. He's a German original. It's actually an interesting career story because he's a German engineer, mechanical engineer, who went to US to build his career in science, and then came back to Europe and moved on to Switzerland, where he established the conference, which became an instant success. First edition hosted 400 researchers, journalists, politicians, and activists from all around the world. So it was big right away, and not to mess with Professor Charles Schwab. So it's very easy to mess these two, and I can see these photos being interchanged by different media. So Professor Charles Schwab is both guys are billionaires at this point. Charles Schwab is an American economist, the same Schwab that stands for Schwab Index, which is the top 1,000 companies on American Stock Exchange. But that's a different guy. He's even one order of magnitude wealthier than Klaus Schwab. Anyways, both are very successful. Both are Schwabs. I'm not sure if they are any related, but they are two different people. So about Klaus and his his event. So basically, this year, I actually watched a few of the panels, and it's mostly like the panel format. So experts in this and leaders, world leaders in certain sectors, market sectors, and in politics and in economy, actually meeting on stage, talking and debating subjects. But most of the time, it's actually very like lightweight conversation. It's very politically correct, and the World Economic Forum itself is actually an organization that composed of over 1,000 big organizations that all donate to this foundation, and the donations go in hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So it's actually a wealthy organization that is privately funded by Apple, by Google, by Meta, by all these big tech companies in different sectors. And basically, whatever really happens there, we just see the panels. The panels are very like smooth and like well-rounded and don't really do like cover anything controversial. So it's really hard to like give you like a juicy parts of the conference because there was no juicy parts. The only the only two talks that are any emotional and any, I would say, informative and maybe worth watching if you want to see any juice on stage was these two. So presidents of Argentina, Javier Milei, and President Trump um, on virtual stage in this case, talking about the political and economical situation in their country and how it might relate to relations with European Union and the rest of the world, and talking about the wave of like conservatism and right wing political spirit coming in. And yes, so these are actually two quite feisty talks and that are, I think, worth watching. Other than that, it's all very, very, very politically correct and no like emotionless and nothing really captivating. So overall, this forum looks like this. On the front, what we see is like a beauty pageant where everyone on stage is for world peace and wants good for children in Africa, da da da. And then there is a curtain, and whatever is behind the curtain, we just don't know because whatever really happens at Davos and that is of importance happens behind the curtain, and all these world leaders definitely meet there for a reason, and we just don't know what the conversations are all about. So we only see the tip of the iceberg. That's why I don't normally pay much attention to what happens in Davos because, again, whatever is of importance, we don't really see that on stage. But one thing that might be worth your attention is the Future of Jobs report that was released by World Economic Forum this January. And you can see the whole report. It's openly available. It's almost 300 pages of, again, well-rounded numbers and also politically correct. We'll see that in a moment. But you can see all the put together as their prediction for what happens, and the horizon is quite narrow. So they predicted only the next 5 years. So the predictions are given up until 2030. So that's very, very narrow window. Anyways, what did they predict? So actually, definitely, like they actually admit that AI is the major shaping factor in the job market right now, and half of employers actually are planning to adapt to AI, which is, I would say, even low number, only half. I would say everyone at this point should conform to the new economy of like AI coexisting with humans. But anyways, and what is interesting about this report is that it's self descriptive. So it's actually it was a series of questionnaires with employers, which is never really objective because whatever you ask, especially when you ask about the future and about the future plans, it's actually always just optimistic, again, politically correct, well, like version of things. So this study is basically aggregated data from over 1,000 employers that are all like within the World Economic Forum scene, and their declared plans for how to operate in times of AI as an employer. So we can actually basically like assume that the reality might go much different from that. So what they actually also predict is that vast majority of jobs, which are like depicted in blue color on this graphic, um, are going to stay in place, and there is a number of jobs that are going to be created by AI, and there is a number of jobs eliminated by AI, but the first over like supersedes the latter. So their prediction is that there will be a net increase of over 78 million jobs by 2030, which is a huge number. And this is again very optimistic outcome. I'm not sure to what extent the reality will just confirm these predictions, but well, it was pitched as a very optimistic prediction, and again, hard to tell because the methodology in this case, well, on the one hand, methodology is probably not the best. Uh, Probably studying some global economic trends and just analyzing in detail how AI is influencing every single uh, industry would be better. But anyways, predicting the future is always hard, whether it's asking humans what they think or looking at numbers. So let's just hope that this prediction will play out to be good. And as quite as expected, what are the like biggest gainers in terms of professions in demand at this moment is all the professions that are related to data, collecting data, analyzing data, and building AI solutions. Um, Plus um, some other interesting like tech professions such as renewable energy engineers and many other. So overall, it's like technical professions that are gaining most in interest versus uh, top declining jobs are often also technical but much more um, algorithmical. So that these are the jobs in which it's actually there is like one type of an activity that is possibly possible to replace by AI agent. And you can find all the numbers and uh, dozens of pretty graphics like this in the report overall. And what is also interesting is the disruption in the next few years by country. It basically looks like in general like mm, give or take 40% of jobs will be disrupted like worldwide. But in terms of the region of the world where this disruption will be the most pronounced, it's going to be countries where they are underdeveloped at this moment. So the prediction is that, in fact, that AI will help to those countries the most. And next, what is the Stargate project, like this famous initiative that was just started literally a day after Trump's inaugural day? Well, so it was actually also buzzed on the media. This is a new initiative by American governments and like big tech companies leading the AI industry in the US to basically create a common platform for those big institutions to collaborate to provide $500 billion to create a new infrastructure around OpenAI to positively influence big industries such as healthcare industry in the US. And these are led by SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and MGX, and with Masayoshi Son from the CEO of SoftBank as a chairman. And well, there were actually plenty of rumors around the project right 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 away for many reasons. One reason was that, well, Larry Ellison from Oracle is involved in the project, while it's actually commonly known that Larry Ellison is heavily invested into cybersecurity and surveillance, and he's actually, yeah, like being one of the leaders of the project might suggest that the project is something much more than just an attempt to improve public health in the US and worldwide. Is actually rather an attempt to create a powerful surveillance system to actually invigilate us all worldwide. And so that was the conspiracy theory that rose right away. Um, and then the next question was, why is Elon not there? Like Elon was involved in Trump's campaign heavily, and he was one of the influencers that brought him votes. Versus like this project is obviously like Altman and Musk have beef for a long time now. So Altman being in the project means Elon not being in the project, which is again like raised questions why this is so, since XAI and OpenAI are competition at this point. So that was a big question that didn't get answered so far. So there are lots of open questions, and whether or not like this is good for Europe and the rest of the world, not sure. It looks to me like this is an alliance against Chinese AI industry that is obviously very powerful and efficient at this point. But whether or not it will give us the benefits we hope for, not sure. And the next big news was obviously the premiere of DeepSeek. DeepSeek, the new AI model, for like LLM model from China, that turned out to be much cheaper and much quicker to build than OpenAI, and that obviously shook the American stock exchange right away. That relied on American supremacy in AI. Like so, there was a like, I mean there is a bubble on the market at this moment. Just indeed like betting on American supremacy in AI industry versus whereas on the very day of Trump's inauguration, the Chinese basically released that new model that became like very trendy as it's open source. So obviously it actually became very trendy right away, and it turned out to be similarly powerful as OpenAI's newest model. So that's raised a question. Okay, what next? Maybe Chinese like silently behind the curtains actually taking over in AI, and maybe American economy, Americans will actually lose the race. That's really for me, especially given that the mentality in China is quite different. I think it's much more the technical development is much more based on collective uh, business and a collective mind and patriotism rather than personal gains. Um, it's obviously also capitalistic society, but it's a bit different mentality, and I'm curious how it's gonna pan out in the long term, like whether or not being like the cult of founders of famous tech founders in the Bay Area plus the cult of individual achievement can eventually win over the collective achievement and the spirit of collective building in China. So that's very, very interesting. Anyways, for us users, it seems to be a good turn of events because we have choice. So and we don't no longer have good models behind the paywall. So for all the small players, all the small businesses, actually building our own AI agents, AI solutions became cheaper than ever before. So that's actually good news, and that's democratization of AI. And to finish this this piece of news, I think that it's often the case that actually AI that technical solutions that come to market as free solutions, free source of open source, such as Linux, they not necessarily win the market over. They usually coexist with paid solutions that just have an easier UX. And Microsoft's Windows versus Linux, an open source operating system, is I think the best example. So when Linux came out, like many predicted the death of Windows, but the fact that the UX is very like handy for someone who is not as geeky to be able to install everything by themselves and you like fluently use Linux, and it integrates with all the devices easily that you normally use, um, that made it win despite it was behind the paywall. So it's not always about the price, it's also about the user experience, it's also about the help desk, whether or not it's there, somebody on the line to call if when you're trouble. So that's also what you pay for. So the fact that DeepSeek turned up to be so good doesn't necessarily mean that OpenAI will get out of the market. So that's that. Mm. So how to predict near future in the job market? Well, as we see, World Economic Forum, like their preferred method is to just ask the employers what they're planning to do, and obviously everyone will tell you, well, we will hire, we will not fire. So that's their method. But I would actually suggest another method of looking into this problem. So follow the money. Follow the money is the rule. And the more I think about it, the more I come to the conclusion that this is the best way to actually try to predict, okay, what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And that's why. So when we look at the private equity and how it's kind of going like into different industries, um, for instance, this is the data for mid-June or like June of 2024, so mid 2024, then we see certain trends. So for instance, compared to previous years, more money is going to IT, more money like is going, well, or less money is going to, for instance, to energy industry. So there are certain trends, and in general, that might reflect in the future how like startups build new solutions, right? Because whatever goes to startups, these startups are going to grow the fastest, give the most jobs, but also create solutions that will affect certain jobs and certain professions. So, like analyzing that is actually, I think, a good way of, well, at least having an educated guess what's going to happen next. And this is obviously a crude picture; it's just very general. But I would, if you're in specific industry, I would just advise you to go like deeper into that industry. What are the new solutions that exist, technical solutions, and which uh, specific startups are getting the most funding and for what? Um, for instance, in IT, the most interesting and funded new technology is called agentic AI. It's actually it's actually type of AI where the agent is able to act on their own, so they make their own decisions. So they take or like for instance scrape certain data, or like they get certain inputs, and without your conscious decision, you basically can delegate it to make its own decision. So based on the commands it's given, so the way it's programmed, given the data that they get, they can actually act on their own. For instance, it has a, like, let's say, a connection to the meteorological predictions on the weather, and if the weather is going to be good, it will, let's say, open the windows in your house. If the weather is predicted to just crash in the next few hours, it will close the windows. So it will act without your like in, without your permission at that point, because you gave it permission to act beforehand. So this is the agent concept, and it can also represent you online. For instance, it can, let's say, if you get a hater's comment on your social media, it can respond to the hater's comment in your name, right, and say, hey, or just block the user. Let's say you might be sleeping at that moment or having fun with your family, and it will just represent you online and just do the damage control for you. So agents will be in public use, and there are some predictions that it will also replace SaaS industry in general. But it will be increasingly popular, and some predictions are even that it will completely replace SaaS in the next few years. So we'll see. But a lot of funding goes into agentic AI, and so that's that. And so if you're in IT, that probably is a question whether or not your profession and your position is safe. It probably depends on how many agents you would need to integrate together to actually replace yourself. If it's, I would say, more than 10, then probably your position is relatively safe at this moment. So how to upskill in 2025? I just give you a few very brief pieces of advice, so what I would do and what I'm doing personally. So actually, if you think that to actually keep like yourself on track, you need to become an AI expert. No, it's not necessarily true. You don't have to be like the programmer, software developer with all the knowledge of the newest technologies. It's just for like leaders who are building new projects in the space. Other than that, there are lots of solutions right now where you can program applications and even create like new businesses around AI without even coding. So they're actually it's using natural language. So what I would say is you don't necessarily need um, AI like proficiency. You just need AI literacy. You have to understand the building blocks and what and what to connect together to operate, and also how AI integrates into business and um, into life. So actually I just listed two courses that are like you can take right away to actually educate yourself on that without knowing any coding. And also, I think what is really important in 2025 is the communication skills, because at this moment you have to fluently communicate with two different species. One is humans and one is AI, and this is like humans are emotional, and that's their like downside, because yeah, they don't react to the same stimuli the same way on different days. But on the other hand, they can understand irony, they can understand your facial expression, they can understand certain things that AI cannot understand. Versus AI is very precise, but you have to give it very precise input to actually get the desired output. So it's like different communication skills, different communication style, but overall, you have to communicate even better than ever before to actually stay afloat in 2025. And in the generation of our parents, typically building a career was basically climbing a ladder. So you were coming into an organization and then getting some junior role, then more like leadership positions, like junior leadership, then then middle range, and then top. So basically, people are climbing a ladder over lifetimes. And at this moment, professional development looks differently. It's basically climbing two ladders at a time. One is people, one is skills. So basically, this is how the way it looks. You build certain social capital, and those new people actually open new doors where you can upskill, you can learn new things, new skills, and also meet new people. Once your skills get up, you have access to new, even more cooler people on more leadership positions, and then those people bring you over, like also teach you, because they are just smarter than you and more experienced, so they teach you new skills. Those skills you bring you to new people, etc., etc. So it's basically like um, putting your feet on two different ladders and just climbing this way. So this is the way I would think about the professional development in 2025. And like there's a saying, your network is your net worth. And I think it's absolutely true. So some free resources. We actually built a new dashboard. It's available at jobs.ontologyofvalue.com. So I'd like you to try it. It's actually a dashboard where we're collecting, aggregating data for interesting startups that are building in engineering, pure IT, and biotech, and they have jobs available. So um, if you're interested in figuring out who is hiring, it's all free. So please, jobs.ontologyofvalue.com. And this is how it looks. So once you click on the company logo, you can see there are like a few crucial pieces of information about them, and the links to their jobs and career pages and their LinkedIn and homepage. And secondly, what I have for you is we built a model in Ontology of Value to help people better self-navigate in the job market and better understand their competitive advantage in the job market. It's based on this assumption that, well, there are three crucial factors that decide about your optimal positioning in the job market, and it's your core competencies that somewhat related to your resume, but also the way your way of building value in a team. So how you position yourself toward other people, and also your local organizational culture. So whether or not you fit the organizational culture um, of your employer, of your yeah. So whether or not this is the right work environment for you. Uh, and we built a solution around it that is named Ontology of Value Test that basically helps you fit yourself on these two levels that are invisible in your resume. And the important thing is uh, life is short and you don't have enough time to test yourself in practice in different types of teams, team roles, and work environments. So you have to make some educated guesses while choosing your career path. So if you're a student starting your career, or if you are feeling stuck in your current career and you would like to explore new possibilities, I would advise you to take that test because it will help you and it will give you, based on 4 different types of variables, it will give you quantitative results that will tell you in percentiles how well you fit these different team roles and the different work environments. So you will give 2 rankings and that will show you in numbers where your competitive advantage is. And this is a bit like a cheat sheet to see where you would have like easy life in the job market. So let's connect on LinkedIn if we didn't so yet. And I have a voucher for the test for you. And for the first 10 people who watch this webinar and who would like to take the test, please use the voucher. And so be quick if you want to take it. And I would advise you to do so because it's just an investment in yourself to know better where your where your competitive advantages are, and this gives you an advantage to know your advantage. Most people never know; they just basically uh, get to certain like way of thinking about themselves and never really question it, and you can lose. There is a lot of opportunity cost to it, especially if you, for instance, if you consider becoming a founder or business person or a solopreneur or yeah, freelancer, and nobody in your family ever did, and you don't know, well, is this for me? Well, you can find out because this test basically is based on how you make your decisions in daily life. So the way of making decisions, well, basically leads you to an optimal working style and optimal work environment. Uh, so I yeah highly recommended. So on that note, I like to finish this webinar. I hope this information was interesting to you, and see you soon on some other occasion. Thank you.